Television, a knockout final in the British Open Tenpin Bowling Championship.
Hello and welcome to the British Open 10-pin bowling championships. And what a long, hard fight it's been, and an exciting one too. And we're whittled all the way down from 150 competitors to just 5. And they're playing in what's called a step-ladder final. Simply stated, it means that number 5 plays number 4, and so on until we reach number 1 and the champion. But equally exciting is my co-commentator, a young professional from America who's won the US Open and the Tournament of Champions. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Berardi.
Harry, it's a pleasure to be here.
How about that for a welcome?
Very nice. Really a warm welcome. I appreciate it.
Joe, you've been in this position many times of this step-ladder final. Is it just as nerve-wracking at the end as it is at the beginning of the tournament?
Well, yes. You work all week to get here, and now you're in the position to win the tournament, so it all comes down to how well you perform today.
A word of advice for the competitors?
Well, try not to get nervous and just hope your ball goes in the right places.
Okay, fine. Well, let's have a look and see who the competitors are in the step-ladder. And we have a truly international lineup with competitors from France, Sweden, Belgium, and an all-British interest in the first match of the step-ladder final between 5th place Alan Fawcett of Harrow against 4th place Lol Ellis from Birmingham. So, here we go. And here's the first ball of the step-ladder final. And it's a good one. A strike on number 11. That's all 10 pins down with one roll of the ball. Now, the English boys are fighting for something big. £1,500 worth of prizes, a trip to Mexico to represent Britain in the World Championships. What a prize this is. Alan Fawcett going on 12. And leaving a weird one. This is what they call a washout. The head pin is there. It means that he has to hit the head pin, carry out the 2 pin and the 8 pin, and carry out the 10. Not an easy shot. And naturally he'll be feeling the pressure because a trip to Mexico, something worthwhile. Oh. As I said, it's a difficult shot, not easy. Now he will move across to lane 11 because this is what they call match play. So he goes for frame 2 in his game. Yes, yes. It soon gets rid of the nerves, does a good strike. Nice. Right, let's have a look at this. Nice action there, and now, Joe, what do you think of this?
Well,
this is a beautiful ball.
The first frame, you could tell Alan was a little nervous. He was a little fast, but he made the correction here, the adjustment. He got the butterflies out of his stomach. He got a good follow-through, good swing, and perfect end result.
And he really cleaned that deck off, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Right. Now. Lol, of course, is already sitting on a strike. This puts him in a nice, strong position, doesn't it, Joe?
Well, if he can get this strike here, he'll be plus 21 pins going into the 3rd frame. And with each strike, he can add 10 pins to his total.
Ooh. That's what they call a tap.
Yes.
Is there any good reason for this, Joe?
Well, yes, there is. As you can see, the entry of the ball was a little straight into the pocket, which is the 1-3, therefore resulting in the 6 pin going around the 10 pin. There are ways to correct that. You have to adjust with speeds and angles, but in the position that Lol is in now, he's making good shots, and that's all he has to do to win.
Now he's going to move well across to his left to cover plenty of boards to make sure he hits the pin.
Each spare should be shot with an angle, especially the 10 pin, the corner pins. You shouldn't try to go straight down the edge. It's too much difficulty in making the spare.
That's a good ball. bit of relaxation between shots. This does help in match play, doesn't it? You just cross around and just get your breath a little bit, and then you're off again.
Well, you do, but you can't falter one bit. Even I find that even when I'm at the ball return drying my hand, I still manage to think as much as I can about what I'm going to do on my next attempt.
In other words, you keep planning your shots, don't you?
Oh, you have to. This game is about 90% mental. It's all concentration. Once you lose your concentration, you give the other gentleman a chance to take advantage of it.
And here he goes. Oh, yes. And at the end of the second frame, we have a strike, a spare, and a strike. Okay, Alan Fawcett now. Alan's sitting on a strike. Now, he's got to do something worthwhile here, hasn't he, to catch up?
Well, as the first frame, Alan made a very bad shot. This frame, he's got to make the adjustment to come up a little higher on the pins to cut down, which he did there. Perfect. It looks like he just...
We're going to have a little peep at this and just see how he did this, because he's... There it goes.
You see the ball's more left of his target. It's to the center of the lane now. Look at it enter the 1-3, just perfect. He could have had 25 pins up there, and he would have knocked them all down.
So an 11-pin lead for Fawcett after frame 3. But he slipped up in the 5th, and Ellis went ahead and stayed there until the 8th, when there was a possible dramatic turnabout with Ellis opening for the second time and Fawcett on a strike. We rejoined the match at the beginning of frame 9.
He will go into frame 9, wondering.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Alan's got this terrific boost of confidence. 2 9 spares and a strike.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, that's the funny thing about bowling. Not always the best game wins. Lal has bowled a very good game. He's missed the pocket, which is the 1-3 once.
Yes.
And has got no rewards whatsoever. Well, he realizes he's down, and now he's trying to fit the ball into the target, trying to place it.
That was a real steer job,
Yes,
wasn't
it was. The first 6 frames, he was loose,
Here we
carefree.
go, there it is.
You watch the ball cross over. He's trying to hit the head pin solid, but he got a lucky break here again. So
Yes.
far, he has not been penalized for the bad shots, but he has been penalized for the good ones. So this game evens out quite well.
Yes. Right, here he goes. Now, Alan is going to bowl frames 9 and 10. He's really got to get to work on this, because he can do himself a power of good, can't he?
Well, Alan is in the position where he can actually close out Lal Ellis. If he can succeed in getting a strike on this lane, a good count in the 10th frame, makes the spare and a strike, he will win the match. Lal, on the other hand, the best he can bowl is 191.
Okay, here we go. Lucky again.
Well, it seems this lane 12, whoever overcomes lane 12 can emerge the champion.
Yes, here it comes again.
Watch, he pulled the ball across his body. He's just laying everything short and pulling it. He's got very high hit here, and fortunately no split, but the 6-10, which is not an easy spare.
At the beginning, I was asking you about the nerves in a situation like this. Each game as it progresses, does it get more and more tension into your system?
Well, not really. The first 2 games on television, you have a tendency to play them the same. But once you get into the final match, to know that you're bowling for the title, you have a little rush of adrenaline going through your body.
Yes.
So you realize what it's for.
Now, you play for lots of money in the United States. Does this have any bearing on the final outcome, really, truthfully?
Not really. Once you've won a tournament, you know, you could never spend the title,
Yeah.
but you can always spend the money.
That's true,
The
yes.
title's very important.
So this is frame 10 for Alan Fawcett.
He needs 2 strikes and 8 pins here to close out Lal.
That's a nasty piece of work. Now, this one really is a tricky spare.
This is no easy spare. You watch, he pulled the ball again. He's just dropping the ball short, letting his arm go to the left of his body, resulting the ball hit square on the head pin, which is the worst thing you could do, especially in this situation.
He was lucky that that 7-pin staggered the way it did.
Yes, he was fortunate that it fell. We could actually have a tie game now.
All right, here we go.
He needs this spare.
He's covered it beautifully. That was a beautiful shot.
Just like the textbook. Alan needs a strike here, because if he gets a strike here, he'll bowl 181, which will force Lal Ellis to throw 2 strikes on the lane he hasn't hit.
And here it goes. He's now on lane 11.
Must have them all.
And he did. What a wonderful finish. Good game. That's a 181. So Lal Ellis must get 2 strikes.
He needs 2 strikes and 1 pin to emerge as...
On the lane where he split twice.
That's correct. I think he's going to make a little correction here and try and get the ball higher in the 1-3 pocket.
Well, I love playing, but he can play this game. The problem here is that he'd be thinking so many things that can go wrong instead of the possibly one thing that can go right.
That's correct. Your mind has a tendency to wander in this position.
That's it. That's it. Okay, he has...
The best Lal can bowl now is 178, which is not enough to beat Alan Fawcett's 181. So Alan will go on to represent his country in the World Championships and now to meet Patrick Rowland in the second game.
Well, he won't be going on yet. He has a little bit more work to do, but he's a step nearer.
Yes.
Is it of any comfort the fact that you did at least make the final 5 when you play in a tournament like this?
Well, sure, you have to evaluate how many players started, and you got to the final 5. It's a great accomplishment.
And that is. Here's the position. Alan Fawcett 181, Lal Ellis 167. So obviously Alan Fawcett through. His next opponent is Frenchman Patrick Rowland, former European champion and multi-record holder. And of course, Alan Fawcett is nicely warmed up and raring to go. Here he goes. He's up on lane 11. Yes. Well, the routing spare, this is number 3 pin, approximately in the same region as the 6 pin. All he has to do is to move very, very slightly to cover this and take it out. My word. Thank goodness they painted them yesterday. All right. Patrick Rowland is from France. Nice to see a Frenchman with Patrick. He squeezed that one a little bit, didn't he? That 9 spare.
Oh, yes. He's very fortunate to make that spare. As we take a look at our first look at Patrick Rowland, you notice he's left-handed. He's bowling it from the other side of the lane. And like everyone, he's a little nervous. He's bowling TV finals.
Now, at this particular moment in time, Alan Fawcett has already bowled a game, won it nicely, because he came out of a bit of trouble, didn't he? And
yes.
He came through to win it nicely. So he will obviously be feeling that much better against the Frenchman.
Well, I don't think so, because he needs to make a correction to try and get some strikes, because he did not get too many strikes, and you're going to need them against Patrick in order to win this match.
When Patrick gets them in there, he really bombs them out, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Now he will bowl the obligatory 2 frames. So they both start with the spare. He too is a very deliberate player.
Yes, it shows that they have a little more concentration It means a lot when you're dedicated to your own frame, each frame, every game.
Yes. Now, this one was a real peculiar mix-up, wasn't it?
Well, this is just the opposite of what Alan Fawcett left in the 10th frame of his game.
Yes.
You watch him as what he does here, he drops the ball right on the foul line, doesn't get the ball over the foul line. The ball has a tendency to hook immediately.
Yes.
Now, you watch the ball go high here. If he would have gotten that ball out on the lane a little more, he would have eventually hit the 1-2 pocket.
He was getting well ahead of the ball there, wasn't
Yes.
he? Hurrying a
Yes,
little
he
bit.
was. You know, when you get on television, you try not to embarrass yourself, so you try and steer the ball a little more, and that is what's occurring now.
Yes. That is to a lot of people, that looks like an easy spare, but it's a very dangerous setup, isn't it?
Well, you see, there are more ways to miss that spare than to make it, so you've got to be very careful.
Right, here's Alan. He took Patrick took those two last spares quite well, didn't he?
Well, yes, it looks like Patrick is an excellent spare shooter. He rolls the ball nice and smooth. Puts more of a premium on accuracy. Alan has to make a move to try and get some strikes here, or else he's going to come up short.
Yes.
That looked perfect. Alan got a little faster, didn't let the ball hook that hard.
You're a good coach, Joe.
No, I'm trying.
After 2 frames, Fawcett has gone ahead. From then on, Rowland was not on his best form. Fawcett gained in confidence and made no mistake to win by a comfortable 43 pins, 222 to 179. So, Alan Fawcett of Harrow, having started at the bottom of the ladder in 5th place, finds himself against one of the favourites to take the title, 2nd place qualifier Mats Karlsson of Sweden, rated as Europe's #1 bowler for the past 3 years.
Now, this man, Mats Karlsson, is rated very highly by a lot of people. In fact, in a few moments, we'll give you some facts and figures about this bowler. Hardly creditable. Can I just draw your attention to Alan Fawcett's matches so far? He's averaged 201.5 for his first 2 matches, so he really is bowling well. And as if to make me out a liar, he just wanders one off a little bit. That was a slightly stressful ball, wasn't it?
Harry, this is something you don't see a right-hander leave that much. It's the 1-3-9. It's usually something left by the left-hander. What happened is that we had a little break between games, and looks like the ball just slipped off Alan's hand. The way he's been shooting at his spares, this should be easy for him to make.
It's a beautiful cutter. That is a beautiful cutter. Now, in my introduction, I mentioned about this man, Mats Karlsson. You can give us 1 or 2 startling facts and figures about him,
Well,
can't you?
Mats, from what I can see and what I've heard, is the premier bowler throughout Europe. I was reading some of his bios, and in 1980, he bowled on a television show, and for 4 games, averaged 266, including a 300 game. So he has the credentials to go all the way today, believe me.
Yes. Can we just mention for 1 or 2 of our viewers that may not be familiar with the full scoring that the maximum you can get is 300, and he's taken step 1.
1 down, 11 to go, so to speak.
He has a marvelous action, hasn't he?
Yes, he's a very deliberate bowler. The concentration he puts out is enormous. He really works hard on every shot.
I've been watching him throughout the championships, and I think the one word that came to my mind at one point was calculating.
Well, you watch, he goes through the same routine every frame, regardless of what he's bowling. He doesn't take anything for granted, and if it's a 5-pin left, or if he got a strike, he still acts the same way.
Amazingly enough, that was a very light hit, and it still swept those pins away, didn't it? There it is.
Well, you watch, he's a little outside of his target, but watch the ball trying to get back. He only missed his target by a little bit, but watch the ball go to the left and have the pin action.
It just sweeps them off, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And he's got a very strong ball.
I suggested it to you earlier on that whilst we were talking that he bowled what I would call the American type of ball. It's very powerful, near spinning ball, isn't it?
Yes, he's the closest thing to some of our pros that I've seen throughout Europe. He's more or less Americanized his game. He can deal with the conditions a little better.
Now, Allen, who's on a spare, threw a little anxious ball. Probably you're right. He just had a short spell that could made him just slightly lax.
Well, you know, it gives you time to think and your hand to perspire, so you never know what can happen the first one back.
Oh, yes. Yes. Now, that ball, it just quit on the pins, didn't it?
Exactly. He's increased his speed on the right-hand lane. He did make a good shot, hit his target, but because of the increased
Here he
speed,
comes.
good arm swing, good follow through, a little to the left, but there's enough oil in the middle to make the ball go back a little.
Yes.
Now watch the ball deflect because of the extra speed. The ball goes right towards the 610, never hit the 5-pin, and in the result, he left the split.
I thought there was a slight suggestion of heaving there as well on the line.
That's a very good observation, Harry. It's quite correct.
Well, we don't expect him to go around picking up those splits, do we?
Oh, he should have been able to. You know, the bowlers of this caliber, that isn't a hard split. It's a more or less a little adjustment off your strike ball.
Yes.
That mistake by Fawcett let Mats Carlsen move in to take the lead. From that point, Fawcett couldn't make a single strike. Carlsen punished him by making 7 strikes in the remaining 8 frames. Fawcett's gallant run was stopped by 214 to 162. Now Carlsen moves on to the final game. He meets the #1 qualifier, Emile Brifos from Belgium. We'll have that final right after the break. Welcome back to the British Open 10-pin bowling final, and we've reached the point of no return. Mats Carlsen of Sweden against Emile Brifos of Belgium. Emile has been the dark horse of the tournament by moving quietly but very efficiently to the #1 position in the qualifying rounds.
Now they've played a total of 38 qualifying games to get here. But it doesn't really mean a thing when you're looking at the pair of them standing on the lane, head-to-head, fighting it out for the title of British Open 10-pin bowling champion. Mats Carlsen on lane 11, going through his little routine and getting set. You haven't seen Emile Brifos before. Believe me, he's very, very good indeed. I think a tiny bit of tension on that one. Just apprehension more than tension, perhaps. There it is.
Well, it has been a few minutes since Matt's thrown a ball down the lane, so basically he got up, ball hung a little. It stays outside his target, and he gets a veritably easy spare.
He seemed to hang on to it a bit longer than he needed to, really.
Yes, well, you know, with the television lights, it becomes a little warm in here. Your hand has a tendency to swell up and hang in the ball sometimes.
I was reluctant to say anything there, Joe, because I was a bit dubious about it, to be honest.
Well, you should never anticipate with this game. It's almost impossible.
Emile from Belgium. Very steady. Very deliberate. Almost casual sometimes, but watch it go in. My word.
That is a true tap. Emile threw the first ball just absolutely perfect. He knows it's good. He's starting to run the ball out. Watch the ball head towards the pocket. Hook, perfect hit.
How that pin missed that 10 pin
Well, that's
is
one
amazing.
of the bad breaks in bowling. And there are a lot of them.
A good time for mine. Here he comes. He's almost benign when he's bowling. He's just very quiet. That's a good one. Yes. In effect, they're starting from scratch. They're both on a spare and running.
Well, if, like you said before, the first 38 games are behind them, doesn't make a difference what happened there. Now tells the whole story. Emil has to come out and make Mats Carlsen aware of his presence. He's got to come out striking.
Yes. I did see Mats watching Emil bowling in one of the rounds, and he was watching him extremely carefully. That's another tough one, isn't it?
Well, it was a little errant. It wasn't as good a shot as the first one. He has a little pull in the swing right here. The ball goes to the right of the target for left-hander. Now watch the ball hit high, but again, he gets a very lucky break.
A lot of spill.
Yes.
A lot of spill.
The result's an easy spare. It's a 2-pin.
Yes. This is routine for the left-hander.
Yes, it is.
Yes, beautifully done. Now, Mats, at this stage of the game, has got to be thinking in terms of, well, it's a relative slip for him at this point, and he's going to have to start striking and doing something really worthwhile
Well,
at the early stage.
Mats, knowing the bowler that he is, he'll take one frame at a time.
Yes.
He'll never look ahead, and he'll never look back. He's up there to do one thing and make the best possible execution he can.
At this time.
At this time, that's correct.
That's a nice over-the-shoulder shot.
Gives you a full view of the ball going down the lane.
Oh. That was superb. Really superb.
Carlsen takes the lead in the second frame and moves further ahead in the third. But in the sixth, Carlsen opened his second successive frame while Brifos is on a strike and threatening to draw level. We rejoin the final game at the beginning of frame 7.
Now that ball was wandering a bit, wasn't it?
Well, this is just what we call an overcorrection. The previous frame, he left the 5-6. This frame, he tries to make sure he gets the ball wide of his target so he doesn't cross over the head pin, but he got it out a little too wide,
Yes.
resulting in a washout.
It hooked far too late, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
He's going to have to be very thorough on this one.
Well, he can't afford really to have another open frame. Emil is capable of throwing a couple of strikes in a row and taking the lead back.
No. That's another open frame. So in frame 7, Mats Carlsen is 134. In frame 5, Emil Brifos is 84 and on a strike in the 6th.
Emil can get this strike here. He will cut Matt's lead to 1 pin.
And be counting big.
These are very crucial shots for Emil. This can actually determine most of the match right here.
Yes, that is fantastic. So he has a pair of strikes. Strike in the 6th, strike in the 7th, now coming up to the 8th frame. I watched him earlier on, and he did a very similar thing. He was just sort of wandering around for a frame or two, and then suddenly he was away off. Here it comes.
Watch the pin action this ball gets. All the pins are on the deck. They're scrambling, but that 9-pin manages to fall last.
They all count.
This is a big ball. If he strikes here, he will take the lead in this match, and Mats will definitely have to become
He
a
has a
little more
lot of
offensive.
concentration going on this shot.
He-
Oh, goodness gracious. That is incredible. Let's have a look, see what happened this time.
Well, you watch the ball. Throw the ball very well. Ball's going to make a turn at the pocket, but then again, not enough to knock that 7 out. Watch the 4 just lay in the channel. Ball didn't have enough power to knock that 7 out.
Now he's got to hold this one in.
This is a must spare.
And now things are getting really tight. Mats Carlsen open frame in the 7th on 1-3-4, and Emil Brifos in the 7th is 1-3-3, but on a spare in the 8th. It can all happen right now, Joe.
Yes, it can. Matt's put himself in a position where he can take an 11-pin lead, but the last 2 frames, it looked like he went into a mental lapse. He's not even come close to the pocket, which is not like him.
Now, the first prize for a non-British competitor is £800. Not bad to be going home with, is it?
No, not at all.
Here he comes. It didn't even look like it, did it?
No, it looks like Matt's a little lost right now. He's seems to be fishing. That time he slowed his speed down a little. He's really trying to concentrate, really trying to hit his target, make a good shot. But his speed is starting to vary, which is the worst thing he
He's
can
still
do.
got that long, sort of wobbly slide, hasn't he?
Yes. Well, that's the momentum he has from the approach.
Yes. He must make this. This is one of the real musts in this game. That's a good spare. Good spare. So there's only 1 pin in it, and they're both counting a spare. 2 frames left to go each. Anything can happen.
Well, Mats is in a situation here where he has to get this strike to get some kind of insurance, because if he doesn't, Emil can throw 3 strikes and close the door on Mats Carlsen.
That's 4 glances down to the ball. Yes, and well worth the glancing. Well worth it.
There's a key shot from Mats. He can't lose
Yes.
any wood going into the 10th frame. What a difference this ball is. Ball's got a great line to the pocket. Look at the revolutions of the ball
Beautiful,
going down
isn't
the
it?
lane.
It really is.
No deflection at all once the ball hits the pins.
Everything in the pit. Now, Emil is fully aware of the fact that there's a strike sitting there. He's on a spare right now. He knows he has to strike here.
In order to keep pace with Mats, he's going to have to.
Oh, my word. Now, that came so light, didn't it?
Yes, it did. It just, he varied his speed a little bit. And watch, he's basically hit the same thing, but watch the speed, what it does to you. The ball doesn't break sharply at the end. He gets that mix, but not as much as he did the previous frame.
This is what it's all about, really. Getting a good mix, isn't it? Getting it all right.
Getting the right roll into the pocket.
Yes. Yes, a good spare. Now, his real opportunity here is to go out with
Yes.
3 strikes.
Mats has to do whatever he does. If Emil would strike out here, it would give him a 201 total. Therefore, Mats would need a strike and 8 spare in order to win this tournament.
That is so suffery, isn't it? Right. That's the 4 pin left. Here it comes again.
Well, he missed his mark a little. I think the nerves are getting him now because he needed the strike bad. And he just threw the ball a little to the right of his target. He got a break by leaving only the 4 pin.
He really did. So he spares this. Will not suggest for a moment there's anything malicious in his mind, but he might be thinking also, oh, my word.
He's teasing himself on these spares.
Yes,
He's
he really
coming
is.
very close to missing them.
I think he kicked at him with his left leg. He was really anxious there. Right. 1 ball left.
Watch how close this ball comes to going in the channel and then just hooks back at the last 8 or 10
It
feet.
was touch and go, wasn't it? Now he's doing a bit of reckoning up.
He's checking the score, make sure there's no mistakes. He knows what he needs. Sign of a good bowler.
Oh, and still another 9, but a good game for all that. He scores a 189. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 spares.
That's
Nearly there.
The breaks of bowling. Mats now needs a mark, either a strike or a spare, in the 10th frame. If he does get a spare, he will need 6 pins on his count ball to win this tournament.
That's true. You were in a similar position, weren't you, at the Tournament of Champions?
Yes, I was in the exact same position. I needed a spare to win the tournament, and it had me thinking a little with $40,000 on the line.
Here's Mats. A good shot, good spare, good strike, and he is the British Open champion. But it's got to be done first. So what's he going to do? Here we go.
In America, they say that's all she wrote. Excellent clutch bowling by Mats Carlsen.
Beautiful stuff.
He knew he needed it.
Yes, here it comes again.
Watch the revolutions of the ball. Just turning over, ball's heading right towards the pocket. Now it's just a matter of whether he carries the pins or not.
And that tap again, but it was great. Good clearance. Two more shots. Could be. Great shot. If you're going to be champion, make a job of it. He must have a marvelous feeling inside of him now, Joe.
Well, anytime you win any tournament, it's a great achievement, especially this tournament because it holds so much prestige.
Mm. Good night pins. Lovely game. 214, 214 by Mats Carlsen from Sweden, and is now the British Open 10-pin bowling champion. A 189 by Emil Brifoss. A good try. It really was a good try, but unfortunately, Joe, not quite good enough on this occasion.
Well, Mats had it all today. Emil didn't get the breaks he deserved, and Mats made key shots in key situations and came through like a champion.
A true champion.
So that's it. After a long and exciting tournament, Mats Carlsen of Sweden is the new British Open 10-pin bowling champion. From Joe Berardi and myself, goodbye from Sheffield.